What opportunities did you spot in this area of water transport?
Oh, thank you, Anthony. While Kalangala, like I mentioned in the beginning, we all we don't want anyone to be left behind. You know, that's the new talk. No one should be left behind. So the hard-to-reach areas have to be looked into. Kalangala it's an island district, so it is one of those hard-to-reach areas. And besides, districts on the mainland, Kampala to Wakiso, you have your roads, you have UNRWA taking care of you. But who was minding the people of Kalangala? No one. So they were neglected. They had only one ferry between Entebbe and Kalangala. And for those who have phobia for water, it takes a very long time to travel by ferry on that road. The ferry is a small one. It couldn't carry so many vehicles. So UDC sees this gap. Remember, there is oil palm Uganda Limited, like I indicated to you. So you want to facilitate even other industrial development. This oil palm Uganda Limited is processing farmers' palm oil. So if you don't facilitate the oil palm Uganda Limited to transport its crude oil to the market in Jinja where it's needed, the farmers are going to lose out. OPUR will stop buying from farmers, and ultimately we all lose. But again, like I said, also people of Kalangala are Ugandans. They needed power, they needed water. You know the challenges of failing to access safe water. They were drawing water directly from the lake, having a burden of diseases because they are drinking and using dirty water. So UDC sees a gap in ensuring that people must get clean water and you reduce on the disease burden. So those are some of the opportunities. Like I said, we are looking at social transformation. So UDC is not in just to make money. That's what makes us different from other private players. We are not in just to make money. People's lives must become better. They must improve. And so provision of some services that ordinarily the private sector will not provide, because no private sector was going to do this for Kalangala. The returns we are going to take forever to manifest. And that patience, I cannot tell you, it's not what someone in the private sector wants to be subjected to. So there was that gap that UDC had to come in and take an extra mile and even borrow, partner with other corporations elsewhere. We are into partnership with the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa. It's, I would say it's the UDC of South Africa. So it is a preference shareholder in this Kalangala Infrastructure Services. And I should mention that we are on track in terms of paying back dividends to this preference shareholder. So as a country, even our image in terms of investing with other corporations elsewhere is a positive one.
Interesting. I love the fact that you're coming from a socio-economic transformation point of view, not just the money, and that really gets me interested in the corporation. But now getting to look at, we're going to get into other achievements. I know there is more, yes. But later on. Let's get into the sectors now that you've been able to invest in. We understand Uganda is an agricultural country, basically having over 60% of our GDP contributed to by agriculture, mainly in what we used to have as the cash crops, for example, coffee, tea, and other industries. And I understand you've made several investments in some of these, but I would like you to mention further, what are those sectors that you have looked at as the UDC to be the ones to transform the economy in the 21st century, and how have you invested in them?
Thank you, Anthony. Because normally we follow the principle of start with what you have and from where you are. So as Uganda, what do we have? Where are we? You said it correctly. Majority of the working population age in Uganda are engaged in agriculture. If they are not, and actually not just in agriculture, but in agricultural production, because agriculture as a sector is a value chain. There are those who are involved in agricultural marketing, like the produce sellers, those who are the Grain Council of Uganda. you're buying and selling grains, you're into agriculture, you're employed in the agriculture sector, but you're not into the production. But majority of the Ugandans are in the agriculture sector. So as UDC came in and said, okay, where should we lay emphasis? So we do have principles that direct our investments, that drive our thinking, where should we invest? And one of them is to offtake the agricultural produce that farmers are producing, since we say they are majority. So one of the sectors UDC has focused on is the agro-industrialization, the agro-industry sector. That is one of the area. And specifically in that sector, we are looking at establishing industries that add value to agricultural produce. And we have them in different commodities. Remember, as a country, there are commodities that have been identified as strategic or priorities for the country, both in our National Development Plan, 3 at the moment, and of course in the most recent, the Parish Development Model. We have commodities that are priority, commodities like coffee, cotton. Much as they are traditional export crops, they've remained very key for the economy like Uganda, but we have the non-traditional ones, like the oil palm I talked about. Maize has become a tradable commodity, an export commodity. So we said, okay, if the majority of the people are in Uganda and we want to offtake what they produce so that it doesn't go into waste. Most of the Ugandans have been into subsistence farming. You're producing for your own consumption, or even those who, and there is a lot of post-harvest losses. So to minimize all these losses, the fruits, for example, in Soroti, we are going to waste. We don't have a culture of consuming all the fruits. We couldn't consume all of them. So value had to be added to them to minimize the losses. So that's one sector where we have, as UDC, invested heavily. And so we have established industries that process tea, industries that process cassava, cotton, fruits, and maybe at a later time I will mention even the products that we are getting out of that. The other sector that UDC has focused on is infrastructure and services. I already highlighted the Kalangala case, but still in the services sector, UDC is a shareholder in Munyonyo Commonwealth Resort.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, UDC owns 25% shares in that hotel.
Yeah.
But also UDC owns Nile Hotel International, 100% shares.
Is it in Ginger?
It's yes, not the Ginger one. You're talking of the small Nile Hotel in Ginger.
Yes.
No, Nile Hotel International.
Okay.
We manage the Serena Hotel concession.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, so we are into that space of services, infrastructure and services, and we are going to be doing more and more in that space. I'll tell you, we are supporting local construction companies in the spirit of Bobo, support your own, build local capacity so that they can undertake the local contracts and you retain the money here, you employ Ugandans. And so that's the other sector. Our third sector is mineral beneficiation, call it mineral value addition. So in this space, we are informed by hard evidence that Uganda is blessed with deposits of minerals. If we go to Karamoja, we have marble in Karamoja. And so already UDC has started processes to establish an integrated cement, marble and lime industry in Karamoja. Work is in progress, exploration surveys have been done, it has been determined the quantities of marble are sufficient, the quality is right, and so, investment in such a heavy undertaking has to be carefully thought out. So a lot of evidence has to be generated to support whatever step you undertake. So we are into that space in the minerals, but also in Western Uganda, specifically in Kabale, there are large deposits of iron ore. So UDC is in the process of establishing a sponge ironing plant in Mbarara, and a heavy one,
What do you mean sponge?
Sponge iron.
Yes.
It's an intermediate product that the likes of roofings used to do the steel products. Like the iron bars, and
Yes.
the beginning point is the sponge iron. It is one of the intermediate inputs that for long we have been importing. So maybe I should have also mentioned the other thing that guides UDC investments is the fact that we want to cut back on importation of whatever we can produce locally here competitively. If we can produce sponge iron, then we should cut down on importation. Because if you produce it here, you're employing people who are going to do that. You're creating jobs. And remember, Uganda is one country with a very big population of young people. And increasingly, these are educated people. If they don't get meaningfully engaged, they are time bomb. Young people can be dangerous. They can disorganize you and overthrow you. I'm not saying they are going to overthrow me, but they must be handled very well. Create jobs for them. I mean, so that is one thing that UDC is looking at strongly. Cut down on importation of what you're able to produce locally. Promote export so that you can bring in foreign currency and improve our balance of trade position. We want to reach that stage where we export more than we import. We are not yet there. But over time with the UDC investments, some of them are export oriented, like the tea companies, they are export oriented. We have a one cassava processing factory in Noya. It processes cassava into denatured ethanol, exports to Kenya. So we are bringing in money and improving contributing really. We cannot claim it all, but we are making a contribution to that effect. So those are the three areas we are into. I said agro industry, infrastructure and services, then mineral value addition. I should have mentioned Masaka, sheet glass. We are in the process of establishing a facility that is going to be producing sheet glass. Sheet glass is a raw material that the construction industry requires. All the glasses you have in your home, the screens and everything, we need the glass. And we are fortunate to have silica sand, that is the mineral that is very abundant on the shores of Lake Victoria in Masaka. So still UDC has taken great strides in doing the necessary explorations to determine the quality and the quantity of the available raw material before we can go into the steps of mining and all that. So we are into that space as well. And we see that mineral value addition as a very strategic sector going forward. We are still young in that area,
very interesting.
But we are growing.
When you hear, for example, some of the sectors you do, value addition, coffee, for example, we do export coffee from Uganda, but most of this coffee is raw. How have we added value, for example, to our coffee?
Thank you very much. I don't know why you've chosen to begin from coffee, but you're very correct. We are adding very little value to most of agricultural commodities, not just coffee. I should say in the space of coffee, most of our efforts are still very young. We are into the process of reviving a one Budadi Arabica coffee in Mbale. You know, Mbale has Arabica coffee, and we are in the process of reviving that factory. It's been dead for a long time. So we've come in, we want to support it, and so that it can begin to roast, and we export coffee of better value than we've normally done, instead of the dry beans that we clean and package and sell. We also going to go into soluble coffee manufacturing plant in Wakiso. This is in our medium term
Uganda, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, we are getting there. We are getting there. Processes are underway. We are also going to do another coffee roasting and processing plant in Liantonde. So we have some interventions, but like I said, in the field of coffee, it is work in progress and in early stages. But where we've progressed a little more, it is in the field of tea, for example. We have tea factories that are processing the green leaf into made tea.
Yeah.
Some have gone ahead to even do some blending our tea so that it can acquire better value. And I should tell you, most of our tea is exported and through the Mombasa auction market. Increasingly, our value, that the unit price that we earn when we export our tea is getting better, because value addition can also be in terms of you improving the quality of the same product that you are doing before. So even if in the tea subsector it is still made tea, but it's of better value because of UDC interventions. And in the cassava, I already told you, we are producing denatured ethanol. It's fuel that is used for cooking, clean energy, environmentally friendly. It's being exported to Vivo Energy Kenya. So, and that was a totally new product that was not there before UDC intervention. No one was processing cassava.
First tell us about that. That is actually new as well to me. You mean ether? It's ethanol
yes.
Obtained from cassava
yes.
through distillation.
Yes, they process it.
And it comes out as liquid.
Yes,
in
liquid
form.
Very clean. I wish but because you don't want people to consume it thinking it's water, they normally add color to it, some green color to differentiate it from other spirits. Yeah, but it's from cassava. And why the north? This factory is in Nile, and Nile is in Acholi sub-region, I guess you know. They grow a lot of cassava in that area. So in the
being roasted a lot along the road. Yes.
And they don't get as much value as when they sell.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's in that spirit of provide a source of economic activity that farmers can be proud to undertake. So farmers are growing a lot of cassava as a commercial business. The president has always emphasized Uganda needs to get away from the business of working for the stomach alone. Go commercial. But how are they supposed to go commercial if they are not assured of markets? So factories, UDC factories like it's called Bokona Agro Processors, are coming in to provide this assured market. And so it encourages, if I know for sure tomorrow I have where to sell my cassava, I can even take a loan and borrow. But I'm not going to borrow money when I'm not sure where I'm going to sell this product.
Yes.
Yeah. So UDC has been in that space. We are also in Eastern Uganda, in Luka. We are processing cotton into very fine cotton wool, very nice, better quality than the imported cotton wool. Yeah. So I would say, if I begin to speak about UDC products, you may think it's an exaggeration. I want to invite you at an opportune time so that you can visit some of these, and I mean you see them for yourself. Very fine cotton wool, Mutuma cotton wool, that's the brand name. Our juice, Teju, how could I even have forgotten to speak about Teju? Teju is the brand name of the juice that Soroti Fruits Factory processes from our homegrown mangoes and oranges. Unlike these imported concentrates, some juices heavily depend on those concentrates. This is pure fruit, prepared in hygienic conditions. So UDC is adding value. We've minimized post-harvest losses, and we are making a contribution as a public corporation, and we are proud. We know we are going to regain the lost glory. Yes. I told you UDC was at its peak in the early 1970s until we were destabilized by the political bad times. But now we are stable.
Have you thought about getting into the oil and gas sector? It's becoming very famous now in Uganda, and we are going to start getting our oil probably by next year or the other year. So have you also thought about in line with the oil and gas sector somehow?
Wow, thank you, Anthony. Unfortunately, not as yet, not in our medium-term plans.
Okay.
Although we also are aware that sometimes it's nice to bite what you can chew. We have a loaded 10-year strategic plan with predetermined strategic interventions. We are into the third year of the strategic plan, so we still have some 7 more years to run. We know investment in the oil subsector would be really strategic, And for various reasons, I should mention also one of the reasons UDC invests is to bring balance, regional balance in terms of development. So UDC is intentional in having investments in the different sub-regions of the country. And it so happens one of the sub-regions where UDC has not yet had investments in is in Bunyoro sub-region.
Okay.
And so really looking at the oil and gas subsector would be very much in order. We have thought in our discussions, boardroom discussions, we've thought of going through the space of services like construction of a first-class hotel.
Sure.
Knowing that there will be a Kabale International Airport, so when people land there, they may need first-class accommodation. That is something that we are thinking about, but I should say for now it's not in the medium-term plans.
Yeah.
But we shall definitely, UDC still living, we shall get there.
Talking about, and I think when you talk about, because you have the infrastructure and services sector, which also focusing on, and it can also get to feed off that oil and gas sector. But coming up also to the mineral sector, you're looking at marble, cement and lime. I've seen that project, and it's quite interesting because out of marble we can make so many precious things.
Yeah, the worktops you have in our kitchen.
Yes.
Very durable, very beautiful,
exactly.
and long-lasting. The hospitals, if you've been to Mulago, the terrazzo, that kind of stuff.
That's all out of marble.
And there is a lot of construction going. Construction as a subsector in Uganda is one of the fastest growing. People are building every day and they are going to need this. So why should we continue importing them? We should produce it here, utilize our raw material, employ more people. I mean, export the excess and bring in money. So it is a strategic investment that surely it's going to kick off. And
in the agro industry, before we leave this sector here, the agro industry has also been faced with quite a number of challenges. We understand farmers still use our mainly, the traditional ways of farming. How have you helped the farmers, especially in the fields of cotton growing, coffee growing, the oil palm, to advance and also get to produce via mechanized methods of farming?
Thank you, Anthony. I should say, for a very long time, UDC has been focusing on value addition and less on the production side. But then we realized that you cannot do that. Most of the industries that have done so well, I want to say Oil Palm Uganda Limited is one of the model that I would say has been successful. They have nucleus farms that support their industries. So since you need a raw material, sustained supply of raw materials for your industries to continue operating and at near full capacity, then you must have this steady supply. And like you rightly pointed out, most of the farmers are constrained. They do not have access to fertilizers. They are largely not mechanized. They are not doing mechanized farming, so they are doing small plots, a lot of land fragmentation. They are not organized in their way of farming, and that complicates it even for the industries that UDC sets up. To divert a bit, the cassava processing plant in Acholi has suffered a very big constraint of inadequate cassava supply. Much as we are saying many farmers grow the cassava, but it was not when the factory, when you think your so many acres are enough to feed this factory, remember it's running every day, you realize, oh, your acres were too few.
Yeah.
So there is so much potential, and so production and productivity need to be enhanced. What has UDC done so far at that level? One, we know as a government agency, we should collaborate with other government agencies because there are other agencies with mandates to work on some of the challenges that UDC investments are facing. For example, the low production. the Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for that. It should see that farmers access the right inputs, they receive the extension services, and so they are able to produce. But nonetheless, apart from collaborating with such institutions that are mandated to play at that space, the production space, UDC, for example, in the tea subsector, at one time we had a facility where we procured and distributed tea seedlings to farmers in Kigezi sub-region, so that they could support Kigezi Highland Tea Factory. There are 3 factories in that region that have benefited from UDC financing. There is one in Kabale, another in Kisoro, and another one in Kanungu. You've heard of Kayonza Tea Factory and the Kigezi Highland. So UDC came in, provided tea seedlings to farmers. That was a direct intervention to boost production. But also in Mabale and fertilizer, UDC provided some working capital to the tea factories to procure fertilizer, so that farmers could enhance both the production and the quality. Tea is one very sensitive crop. If you don't manage it the right way, the quality of the green leaf will be so poor.
Yes.
The productivity will be so low. And if the quality of the green leaf that you harvest for processing is bad, even the final product, which is the made tea, is going to be of poor quality, and it will fetch you a low price at Mombasa auction market. So everything is interlinked, and UDC is cognizant of that, we must take a value chain approach, handle challenges at whatever place they appear.
Yes.
So going forward, we are strongly intervening even at production level.
Interesting, very interesting. We're going to take another short break, Dr. Warunji, and when we return, we want to talk about the market problem. The market, we understand value addition has been there, and our aim is actually exportation and trying to feed our foreign markets. But we want to also strike a balance between our local industries and also us, what we actually putting out there. Are we actually putting out more than we should? Are we putting out less? And how can we strike that balance? Also, there are other challenges like foreign investors. We understand this is a fund that came actually to help promote the businesses here in Uganda. But recently, there's also been a drive for foreign direct investments. How have these actually fared vis-a-vis our local investments? Should we work in harmony? Should we find a way of actually striking a balance as well in the domestic direct investment as well as the foreign direct investment? Ladies and gentlemen, that's of course the topic of discussion today. And I'm with Dr. Barungi Mildred from the Uganda Development Corporation. We are taking a very short commercial break, and we return shortly. Stay with us.